Hi, David Odell here. I'm back in the Arizona location. I'm gonna do a little bit of stucco work today. Let me just show you the areas. I'm gonna do the prep, the whole package here. I'm gonna be stuccoing this little end where the stairs meet the retaining wall. Also, so the first thing I'm gonna do is sweep. I want to keep it dry at the bottom on top of this stamped concrete. I'm gonna use some tape plastic all the way down here to avoid a major cleanup. So I'll keep that area dry and just sweep it. That way my tape's gonna stick really good. Now we head over here to the other side of the building where the other retaining wall is. Here it is here. So I'm gonna stucco this also, and then on the top I'm just gonna build it up a little bit in the back so it'll just drain out this direction, even though I mean there's very little rain to speak of in this area, but just in case, just kind of direct it and it'll look a little cleaner too. I got a few things over here that I'm going to be using. Here's what we got. Let's start with the first process. That's the glue. This is what I'm going to use for my first skim coat, a scratch coat basically. I'm going to use some of this right here, some Deco Will. I'm going to probably dilute a little bit with water and just brush it on there. I'll mix it in one of my buckets here with water. I could even put it in the sprayer and spray it, but I'm going to brush this one because it's a smaller area. If it was a big area, I'd probably put it in a sprayer. Now on the mortar mix that I'm going to be using for the first coating, that I'm going to have to let set overnight, at least one day, before I apply the texture, the stucco mix. Here's the mortar that we're using. Type S mortar mix. Then for the stucco, we won't need all this, but that's the way it comes. We'll probably use half of this bag. That's white, and then we're going to add this, which gives it about the same color. This will give it about the same color as this concrete and the house, right in that range. Earth tone basically. So after I get these two on there, wait a day, then I'll mix this one up and then go over that and give it the texture that I want. And I haven't decided if I'm going to go smooth or I'm just going to do a standard texture. Anyway, let's get down to it. This really isn't the type of tape. This is not really the type of tape you want to use on painted surfaces. There's a good chance it could pull the paint off with it, especially if I leave this on overnight, this tape. If I pull it off today, it might be okay, but if it sits overnight, it's probably going to have to take some touch-up paint to correct. You really want to use that blue too. The blue tape, that comes off pretty clean, no damage. That's enough tape for now. Yeah. You know, because this area here is so small, I think I can control the product pretty good. So I'm not going to use plastic at all. I'm just going to use maybe two strips of tape. Should be able to control this pretty good. All I'm going to do is get this a little moist with the glue, dilute it with water. That'll be enough moisture to get a good bond. And I'm going to throw on that first scratch coat, let that hook up overnight really well. shrink, because you know concrete or any cement product gonna have some shrinkage in it. Let it shrink. If it wants to crack, it can overnight. And then when I skim coat it with the stucco, and that's so thin and very minimal cracking in that, so you don't have to worry about that cracking again on you. Basically it's just gonna hide, it's gonna hide these seams. This technique's really good. It's good for any wall, really. If the wall is structurally sound, you can cover it with stucco. If you don't like the appearance of a wall, you've got mismatched blocks from previous repairs, or maybe you have an old crack in there, but the wall seems pretty stable, you know, it's not really moving anymore. You can cover that and make it all uniform. Make it look like a brand new wall, basically. All right, I've got the water, I've got the glue. And medium sized trowel, and then this margin just to get in those little tight areas in these corners. I got about half a gallon of water in here. I always like to put glue on walls. A lot of people just wet them down and go with that, but the glue just gives you a little extra insurance, you could say, that it's not going to peel off. And notice there's a little mortar sticking out right here. I'm going to have to chip that off. Chip that off. There. All right. Knock some of this stuff off. There, that looks pretty flat. That should cover pretty easy now. Now, we'll let that dry a little bit. I'm gonna go over here and start mixing some concrete, or some mortar actually. Mix that up. By that time I get that mix, this will be ready. I might douse it one more time. So it'll basically be 2 coats of glue. If you'll notice this color, they actually gave me colored mortar by mistake, which may work out good for me, because let's see, look at this bag. Here's the bag. Look at this. This is just supposed to be regular gray mortar, but they gave me Havasu brown, which might be a good color by itself without even having to go colored stucco, if it doesn't crack up on me. Now let's take a look at this bag. Well, both bags. I got 2 bags of the 80-pound, and they're both Havasu brown. So another benefit, I suppose, to this, even if I do go over it with the stucco, the colored stucco, the colors are pretty similar. So if the stucco were to chip off of this, you wouldn't even know it probably. They're that close. let's take a close-up on that. Now we can just let that set. That'll be ready to hit it with the sponge once it gets hard enough, which I would say in about 20 minutes. Let's get in here and see what we got. All right, we got clean, crisp corners. We have a little bit of slope away from the building. That's the way I troweled it on there. Give it a little angle. I could see by the trowel, because it's a foot long, you can see that it was sloping towards me off of the house as I troweled it right on through here. Now let's take a look at the end over here. See that? The sponge, and you noticed here, right here, I left a little seam there because it's separate from the steps, so if there's any movement, it's not going to chip the mortar off. It has that space, and it can do that pretty much freely without having to chip off the mortar. Now this corner right here is a little bit low. You can see it drops right there, but I can work that out with the sponge. That's pretty darn close. Now here's the sponge I'll be using. This baby's taking a beating too. Look at that. It's pretty trashed. I should have got a new one. Look at that. Ripped up off the side there. But I do have a backup. Let's see, where's that backup plan? Oh yeah, here it is. I may just have to go with this one because that one's pretty tore up. All right, I'm heading to the other side of this house to get that other retainer covered up before my bag of mortar goes off on me and makes it worthless. Kind of rolled the edges with my sponge, float a little bit just to take off that hard corner, but yeah, looks pretty decent. And that, when that cures out, it's going to lighten up a lot. It'll probably be real close to the stamped concrete color. That's my guess. And then I'll take a razor knife and cut this tape out. Just cut it right along the concrete and pull the excess. Okay, let's go back to the other side, see what's going on over there. Right, here's the sealer we'll be using on that stucco I did on the block retaining wall around the manufactured home. I'm using a ½ gallon of acetone, I'm using 1.5 gallons of the Arizona Seal, and I'm using a basic $10 2-gallon pump-up sprayer. That sprayer, you know, is not going to make it through another job. It's only good for one, and then the hoses come apart on them. They're not real good with, you know, this type of a sealer. But you can get 20 of those versus one metal pump up. So I would recommend going with the pump up sprayers every time, because it's new. Every job you get a new one. Why toy with old reusable stuff when you can get new? Anyway, let's get down to business. All right, we're gonna seal this up now. I've already got my solution mixed up. This is the box the sprayer came in. Cut it up. I'm gonna use this for a paint shield now. Here's a close-up of it. Turned out good. You can see there's no cracking in it, so there's no point in going over it again with stucco when this mortar is looking really good. Okay, there's the paint shield in action. Let's hit it. It's not windy today, luckily. All right. This sealer, I mean, it's not necessary on this, but you know, it's gonna buy you some more time, really. It's just gonna give you a little more longevity in your you know, keep it looking nice. See that? I'm pretty generous with the way I apply that, huh? All right, that's sealed up. We'll take a look at that in an hour or so. See how it looks once that sealer's dried up. But let's go over here. Seal up this other end near the stairs. You may remember this video on this stamped concrete. It's holding up real nice. It's looking real good still. Now, a little extra sealer on the stamped concrete. I guess that won't hurt much. Another one of those bonus things. Look at that. Cardboard's like meant to fit here. Now it's been about 30 minutes on this stucco on the first coat of sealer. Now let's hit it again with another coat. Luckily the box that this sprayer came in, it gave me enough for 2 shields, 2 paint shields. Typically on your second coat, you'll find that it's not penetrating, you know, like it was on the first coat. So you use a lot less material on your second, third coats. All right, this is about a year later, and this is what it looks like a year later after we went through that whole process. It's a little moist because it rained last night, but it definitely lightened up quite a bit. Anyways, I thought, well, it looks good enough. Why put the stucco on it? Turned out nice just with the mortar, so I just left it like that. Let's go look at the other side on the staircase itself. See how that's holding up. A lot of times the mortar will end up cracking on you, you know, because it goes on too wet, or you put too much water in it, too thick, so it'll crack up on you. But the way I put it on there, it didn't really do anything. It just stayed just how I left it. So this doesn't need any stucco. So anyway, you'd probably always need stucco if you're going over paper and wire or some kind of loose substrate. You definitely probably need stucco because the mortar or the scratch coat's gonna crack up on you. But anyway, yeah, a year later and it's still holding up fine. I'm not gonna mess with it. Anyway, stay tuned for the next one. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. See you on the next one.